in a number of efforts as it every day implements its mandate. Without much ado, let me introduce to you who is coming from NRB. NRB has been led by Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Homeland Security, responsible for National Registration Bureau, Mr. Mphatso Sambo. You can raise your hand, sir. And we also have the Director of National Registration, Mr. Noel Chikungu. You can raise your hand, sir. And to the immediate left of the PS, we have the Deputy Director of NRB, Mr. Godfrey Zulu. And just before the Director, this side, we have the Head of Identity Management, Mr. Mbawaka Mwakwawa. You can raise your hand. And Head of Accounts here at NRB is Mr. Hastings Kachikopa. You can raise your hand, sir. So we will not keep you long. We will go straight into the statement of the day, and thereafter we will leave it to you, members of the media, to ask questions. The PS is going to make the statement. He will do it in English and thereafter do the same statement in Chichewa. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to the Principal Secretary of NRB, Mr. Mphatso Sambo, to make the statement of the day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Norman Flatira. Welcome everyone to National Registration Bureau. Let me recognize the presence of the Director of National Registration Bureau, Mr. Noel Chikungu, the Deputy Director of NRB, Mr. Godfrey Zulu, the Head of ID Management, Mr. Mbawaka Mwakwawa, Mr. Hastings Kachikopa, the Head of Accounts, and everyone else who is from NRB. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the Capitol Hill, NRB headquarters, where we are this afternoon. Let me also recognize all the Malawians who are watching us and listening to us online. Members of the media, this press conference is a continuation of all the regular updates that we provide you, Malawians and all the stakeholders. My statement is going to be in English, and then after I will speak in Chichewa. Zongwambira Malawi nonse, komaso nonse amene mukutionera, mukutimvera, komaso atolankhani athu, motsogozedwa ndi akuluakulu anzanga ali kuno, Achikungu, wamkulu wa NRB, Director, ndi achiwiri awo, Godfrey Zulu. Ndi werenga statement mu Chingerezi, koma pomaliza nditanthauzira mchichewa. Ndipafunitsitsa kuti statement imeneyi imveke bwinobwino mu Chichewa chomveka bwino. Koma chifukwa chakuti ntchito yathu imatsatidwa ndi kuotedwa ndi anthu osiyanasiyana, mundilole kuti ndiwerenge mu Chizungu. Today's press conference is aimed at providing details to Malawians on how the National Registration Bureau, NRB, is going to register eligible citizens for the issuance of national IDs at a time the Malawi Electoral Commission will be implementing phase 2 of the voter registration exercise. As we all know, in the High Court ruling of 25 October 2024, Civil Cause number 130 of 2024 before Justice Mandala Mambulasa, NRB was ordered to immediately take steps and put in place adequate mechanisms that would ensure that persons who meet the eligibility criteria set by Section 77 of the Constitution and present themselves at the Malawi Electoral Commission make registration centers, but do not have proof of eligibility issued by them by NRB, are assisted to register in its database and give a unique identifier in line with the requirements of Section 12 of the Presidential, Parliamentary, and Local Government Elections Act, and then are allowed to register as voters thereafter with MEC. NRB needed to comply to this court order. This is why today, ladies and gentlemen, NRB has gathered you members of the media to explain how it is complying with the court order in its registration efforts. The strategy for new registration during MEC voter registration exercise. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this juncture to explain to this the strategy that NRB has put in place to register new registrants into the National Registration and Identification System. Number one, eligibility to register with NRB. First of all, Malawians must remember that NRB registers every citizen who is 16 years old and above into the National ID database. As such, every Malawian citizen who is eligible to register can do so anytime at any registration point, including in the centers to be opened during the MEC voter registration exercise. However, this is not to say that every 16-year-old will register for voting after registering with NRB. No. As NRB, we are aware that the MEC system has the capability to detect every citizen below the age of 18 when attempting to register during voter registration exercise. Number two, proof of citizenship. For all eligible citizens who have not been registered, NRB requires such citizens to either be accompanied by one of their parents to vouch for them, or 2 witnesses and a letter from the village headman as a standard operating procedure. During this exercise, NRB is requesting all eligible citizens to strictly adhere with the standard operating procedures. It is a criminal offense under Section 43 of the National Registration Act for one to give false information for the purpose of getting a registration with NRB. 3. Civil registration centers. You are all aware that NRB is present at all MEC voter registration centers and will continue to be present at all MEC voter registration centers to assist eligible persons who do not have proof of eligibility issued to them by NRB to ensure that persons who meet the eligibility criteria set by Section 77 of the Constitution and present themselves at the Malawi Electoral Commission registration centers are registered with NRB. Data processing and biometric registration centers. Every new registrant will have to undergo due process of civil registration according to the law. NRB has established biometric registration process to service all MEC voter registration centers. NRB has deployed biometric registration staff in addition to the digital identity verification staff to service at least 2 voter registration centers across the country. Registration officers. NRB has recruited temporary officers who have been working with NRB since June 2023 in the National Identity Outreach Registration Exercise. These officers have been deployed to conduct registrations. Remuneration of the registration officers. NRB will provide a daily subsistence allowance for the temporary officers that is the same rate as it is the case with identity verification officers, as well as MEC temporary staff. Civil registration equipment. As you are all aware that our biometric registration kits were deployed for ID verification exercise in all make registration centers, we have withdrawn all, it's about 1,000 of them, biometric registration kits from the digital identity verification exercise. These kits have now been prepared and configured for new registration exercise. Digital identity verification equipment. NRB has secured enough equipment for digital identity verification. The equipment has been deployed at all make voter registration centers. NRB is using tablets for the digital identification verification exercise at all make voter registration centers. Number 9, civil registration process at make voter registration centers for all new registrants. NRB has put in place strategies which will allow all citizens who will have registered for the first time with the NRB to be assisted at the voter registration centers. Duplicate registration. NRB would like to warn all citizens that registering for more than once does not only create duplicates in the registration system, but it is also an offense under the National Registration Act of 2010. Therefore, citizens must know that once found that they are registering twice, they will be prosecuted, or once found that they are attempting to register for more than once, they will be prosecuted under the laws of Malawi. Apart from facing prosecution, registering more than once will reduce the citizens' chances of participating in voter registration exercise, since it will require NRB's manual intervention to clear the duplicate records before they can proceed to register with MEC. Deployment of equipment and temporary staff to centers. As we are conducting this press conference this afternoon, NRB teams are actually being deployed to all the centers in readiness for the continuation of new registration and digital identity verification exercise. Number 12, public awareness. During this exercise, NRB will utilize all the existing channels to reach out to the citizens with messages about the exercise. We expect all our stakeholders to help in the public awareness. Number 13, continuous registration at district registration offices. NRB further reminds the general public that all its offices are open. All its offices at the district, town, and municipal councils, including some post offices and satellite offices across the country, plus some selected centers, have continued to operate. And all eligible citizens have been and are still equally accessing services since 2018. So since 2018, our offices have been open, giving opportunity to every Malawian to get registered. Therefore, citizens can still continue to go to these registration points and will be assisted accordingly every working day of the week. NRB is reminding all stakeholders and all the citizens that identity registration is free currently. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, let me assure all the Malawians that as NRB, we are ready to register eligible citizens in all the make voter registration centers for them to be able to get proof of identification that they can use for voter registration. Let me talk about digital identity verification. Members of the media, I would like to remind all Malawians that in its continuation with its mandate during the make voter registration exercise, the National Registration Bureau will continue providing digital identity verification service into the phase 2 as we are going forward with the voter registration with MEC. Just like in phase 1, all citizens who already registered with NRB but they lost their card, maybe their card is damaged, or maybe their card is defaced, or they are yet to collect their card from NRB, these citizens will be referred to an NRB desk within the MEC Voter Registration Center for assistance. Let me emphasize again that every citizen who once registered with NRB must not register again as fresh registration, but rather proceed to Voter Registration Center and NRB will assist them with verification of their record as citizens. Any attempts to register again with NRB will create a suspicious duplicate record, which will have to be verified through a deduplication intervention and may delay efforts to provide proof of identification that is a requirement for voter registration. Members of the media, the digital identity verification exercise in phase 1 was a very big success. In fact, all of the people who had registered with NRB and had no card or it's lost, they were able to be verified, and 100% of them have been registered with the Malawi Electoral Commission. We will continue to provide this service to ensure that every Malawian is registered. But let me also just quickly mention that we have printed all the cards for every Malawian who registered with NRB, and these cards have been dispatched to all the registration centers. Every Malawian can go and collect their card from the center where they registered. Members of the media, Malawi is leading in the Sustainable Development Goal, especially 16.9, to provide legal identity to everyone, including birth registration by 2030. We at NRB, as government, we are committed that this SDG 16.9 should be attained as quickly as now, and we believe by 2025 every person in Malawi will be registered. NRB has planned an exercise called National Birth Registration Campaign to register everyone below 16 years old by 2025. Coupled with a strong birth registration in all health facilities across the country, NRB ensures that every citizen is registered at birth or as a child. With this initiative, every Malawian is expected to be registered with their rightful age, and that every Malawian will be in the NRB database with their correct age. This also implies that those who might have not registered with NRB, by the end of this registration campaign or by the end of this initiative, everyone is expected to be in NRB database. As I conclude, I wish to assure Malawians that NRB will continue to implement the national ID registration exercise across the country, and every eligible citizen will be registered and be able to exercise their rights with ease on all aspects of life, including elections. I thank you all for your attention. May God bless you all.